This is a key to the worksheet on topic 43, worksheet 2, where you are asked to write equation of lines, and these equation of lines pertain to parallel and perpendicular lines. So in number 1, it says find the equation of the line that goes through the point -4, -5, and is parallel to this line that has this equation. And then you want to write your answer, your equation, in the form y equals mx plus b, which is slope-intercept form. So let's go ahead and take a look at number 1. So number 1, remember this line goes through the point -4, -5, and this line that we're interested in is parallel to the line whose equation is this, y equals -4x plus 3. So if I'm interested in the equation of the line that goes to this point, I need to know the slope of that line. So I need to know the slope of this line that goes to this point. Well, I can easily find the slope of this line because I know that this line is parallel to this line. And I can easily find the slope of this line because it's in slope-intercept form. So remember, slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, where the coefficient of x is your slope. So since I have this in slope-intercept form already, the slope here is -4, the coefficient of x. So the slope of this line is -4. So that means that since these two lines are parallel, the slope of the line that goes to this point has to also be -4. So now I have a point of the line and I have a slope. So once you have a point on the line, and once you have a slope of that line, then you can easily find the equation of that line. There are two approaches you can use. So some of you probably did it this way. So let's call this approach 1. So some of you probably use slope-intercept form to do this, y equals mx plus b. So in order to use slope-intercept form, though, you need to know the slope and the y-intercept. Notice I know the slope now. The slope is -4, but I don't know the y-intercept. All I know is that this is a point on that line. All right, I can use that. So this is what I have so far. I have y equals -4 times x plus b. And all I've got to do now is find what this y-intercept is. Once I find this y-intercept, then I can write the answer in slope-intercept form. Okay, so the way you're going to do that, though, is if you're going to solve for b, if you're going to find out what the y-intercept is, then you have to know an x and a y that's on this line. And I do, right here. That point is on that line. So I know that this point is on that line. So this is your x-coordinate, this is your y-coordinate. So -4 is your x-coordinate, -5 is your y-coordinate, and it's just a matter of you substituting these values into the unknowns here, into the x and a y. So I got y, which is -5, equals -4 times x, which is -4, plus b. And then multiplying, I get -4 times -4 is 16. So I get -5 equals 16 plus b. And now to get b by itself, I'm going to subtract 16 from both sides. So I get the y-intercept is going to be a -21. All right, so there's my y-intercept. So therefore the answer, because remember they did want the equation to be written in slope-intercept form. So the answer then is y equals the slope, which is -4, times x, plus b, and the y-intercept is -21. So there is your slope-intercept form. So you would have y equals -4x minus 21. All right. Now, the other approach, which some of you probably used, was this. And the second approach is to use point-slope form. Point-slope form. And so to use point-slope form, the formula is this: y minus y1 equals the slope times x minus x1. In order to use point-slope form, I've got to know a point on that line, which I do. A point on that line is -4, -5. And I've got to know the slope of that line. So hence point and slope. And I do, which is -4. And then it's just a matter of you taking this information and putting it back into this point-slope form. Keep in mind, though, that, let me go ahead and rewrite this over, negative 4, negative 5. Keep in mind, though, that remember, in this case, when using this approach, we substituted into x, we substitute negative 4, and into y, we substitute negative 5. Be careful here. What you want to do is substitute into x1, negative 4, and y1, negative 5. So I have this. I have y subtract, so that's subtraction. So y subtract a negative 5, y1, equals the slope, which is negative 4, times x subtract the x-coordinate, which is negative 4. Before you distribute, because remember trying to get y by itself, and you have to distribute, before you do that, though, you need to rewrite this part here. You know that y subtract a negative 5 means y plus 5 equals negative 4 times, and then x subtract negative 4 means x plus the opposite of negative 4. So that's x plus 4. And now let's go ahead and distribute. So I get y plus 5 equals negative 4x. A negative 4 times a positive 4 is a negative 16. And then I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. Combine like terms. I get y equals negative 4x. A negative 16 and a negative 5 is a negative 21. So no matter which approach you take, you get the same equation in the end. All right, so that's number 1. Okay, let's look at number 2. So in number 2, you're told this. So let's see, you're told this. So you want to find the equation of the line that goes through this point, and is perpendicular to the line whose equation is this, y equals 1/5 x minus 2. All right, so I have 2 lines here. I have a line that goes to this point, and I have this line here. In order to find the equation of the line that goes to this point, I know a point, but now I've got to find the slope. So I have to find the slope. So you must know or find the slope. Okay? You must know the slope of that line, which I don't know yet, but I'm about to. I know that this line is perpendicular to this line. So if I can find the slope of this line, then I can find the slope of that line, because those 2 lines are perpendicular. Well, this is already in slope-intercept form, so it's easy to find the equation of this line. The equation of this line is the coefficient of x, so that's 1/5. Now be careful. They're perpendicular. They're not parallel, so don't say this is 1/5 also, because those 2 lines are not parallel. Those 2 lines are perpendicular. So remember, 2 lines are perpendicular implies that their slopes are opposite reciprocals of each other. So what you got to do is take the reciprocal of this. So the reciprocal of 1/5 is 5. And then take the opposite. So if this is positive, this has to be negative. All right, so the slope of this line is negative 5. All right, so now we have the 2 approaches again. So approach 1 is to use slope-intercept form. And I know the slope now, but I don't know the y-intercept, so I have to find it. So I have y equals negative 5x plus b. So in order to find the y-intercept, I've got to use a x and a y that's on that line, which I do know. That's this point here. So I'm going to use that point. So there's your x, there's your y. And you're going to substitute that into your equation. So y is negative 7 equals negative 5 times x, which is 2, plus b. Solving for b, negative 5 times 2 is a negative 10, so I get negative 7 equals negative 10 plus b. Adding 10 to both sides, and then combining like terms, I get the y-intercept is equal to negative 7 and 10 is a positive 3. And so therefore, your equation, the answer, and they did want this in slope-intercept form, so the answer then is y equals the slope, which is negative 5, times x, plus this y-intercept, which is 3. So there's your equation. All right, the approach number 2, so if you did approach number 2, the other approach, and that's using point-slope form, y minus y1 equals the slope times x minus x1. In this case, you have to know the slope, which I now know. The slope is negative 5. And you have to know a point of that line, which I know. That's 2, negative 7. Now, when substituting these numbers into your equation, keep in mind that 2 here will be substituted for x1, and negative 7 will be for y1. All right, so let's substitute. So I get y subtract a negative 7 equals the slope, which is negative 5 times x subtract 2. Before we distribute, let's go ahead and simplify this first. Y subtract negative 1 means y plus the opposite of negative 7, which is positive 7, so it's y plus 7 equals, and let's distribute. I get negative 5 times x, and the negative 5 times a negative 2 is a positive 10. Subtracting 7 from both sides and combining like terms, I get y equals negative 5x, 10, and a negative 7 is a positive 3. So notice, no matter which approach you took, you get the same equation in slope-intercept form. So the answer to this one is y equals negative 5x plus 3. All right, number 3. So in this time in number 3, we have this for number 3. So let me go ahead and rewrite this. So so that's number 3. All right. So the line goes through the point 6, 8 and is parallel to the line whose equation is y equals negative 2/3 x plus 5. All right. So notice that if I want to find the equation of this line that goes to this point, I need to know the slope of that line, which I don't know yet. But I do know this line is parallel to this line. And this equation is already in slope-intercept form, so I can easily find the slope. The slope is a coefficient of x, so that's negative 2/3. So since those two lines are parallel, the slopes have to equal. So this line will also have that same slope, negative 2/3. All right, so now we just go and we do the work. So approach 1, and some of you probably used slope-intercept form to do that. And so I know the slope, which is negative 2/3. So I have y equals negative 2/3 x plus b. And now I've got to find b. Well, to find b, I'm going to use the fact that this point is on that line. So the point on that line is 6, 8. So this will be the x-coordinate. This will be y, and I substitute. So I get y, which is 8, equals negative 2/3 times x, which is 6, plus b. Okay, let's go ahead and simplify this. I can reduce the 3 and the 6 here. 3 and the 3 is 1, 3 and the 6 is 2. So I get 8 equals negative 2 times 2 is a negative 4 plus b. And then to solve for the y-intercept, to solve for b, I'm going to add 4 to both sides. So I get b equals 12. And in number 3, they wanted you to write the answer in slope-intercept form. All right, so the answer in slope-intercept form will be y equals the slope, which is negative 2/3. So negative 2/3 x. Oops, negative, let me write it over. Y equals negative 2/3 x. And then the y-intercept is positive 12, so plus 12. All right, so that's number 3. So that's the answer for number 3. If you use approach number 2, you would have gotten the same answer. Approach 2. Y subtract y1 equals the slope times x subtract x1. So to use this point slope form, I've got to know the slope of that line, which I do know is negative 2/3. And you have to know a point of that line, which I do, is 6, 8. But when using this, remember, you're going to substitute 6 into x1, and you're going to substitute 8 into y1. So I get y subtract y1, which is 8, equals negative 2/3 times x subtract x1, which is 6. All right, now distributing, I get y subtract 8 equals negative 2/3 x, and then a negative 2/3 times a negative 6 is a positive, and remember you're saying 2/3 times 6, right? 2/3 times 6, so just like we did here, so this is this. So 3 into 3 is 1, 3 into 6 is 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. So you get plus 4, right? So negative 2/3 times a negative 6 is a positive 4. And then adding 8 to both sides, combining like terms, I get y equals negative 2/3 x. 4 and 8 is 12. And notice you get the same equation in slope-intercept form. no matter which approach you took. All right, so that's number 3. Now, number 4, if you take a look at number 4, this time the final answer has to be in standard form. So you got to remember what standard form is, not slope-intercept form, standard form. Okay, so let's look at that one. So this is number 4. So number 4, the line, so that's number 4, the line goes through the point -2, 3, and is perpendicular to the equation, to the line whose equation is y equals -2x plus 1. All right. So if I'm going to find the equation of this line that goes to this point, I've got to know the slope of that line, which I don't. But I can easily find it because I know that these two lines are perpendicular. And this is already in slope-intercept form, so the slope of that line is -2. Okay? So then if those two lines are perpendicular and this slope is -2, then the slope of this line is the opposite reciprocal of -2. So let's first of all take the reciprocal of 2, which is 1/2. And then since this is negative, this has to be positive. So the slope of this line is 1/2. All right, so now approach number 1. Okay, we're going to use slope-intercept form. So I know the slope, which is 1/2. So far I have this. I have y equals 1/2 times x plus b. So now I've got to find the y-intercept. To find the y-intercept, I've got to substitute something into x and y, which I know is this point here. So -2, 3. So this is your x, this is your y. Substitute into there. So y is 3 equals 1/2 times a -2. X is -2 plus b. 3 equals half of -2 is a -1 plus b. And then getting b by itself, I'm going to add 1 to both sides. So I get b equals 4. Okay, now be careful. In all the previous problems at this point we said the answer, but you got to be careful because they want the equation in standard form. All right, so let's remember what standard form is. So I'm going to put that down here. Standard form of a linear equation looks like this. ax plus by equals c, where a, b, and c are integers. Okay, integers, where a, b, and c are integers. So you don't want any fractions, you don't want any decimals. You want a, b, and c to be integers. Also important to know that a and b cannot both be 0. Can't both be 0. Okay? All right. So a can be 0, b can be 0, but they cannot both be 0. Remember, 0 is an integer, so that's why I indicated that as well. Okay, so if they were both 0, you would no longer have a line because there's no variable, right? So you would no longer have a line. Okay, so that's important, that a, b, and c must be integers. Okay, so here's what all of you would have done if you use approach B. You would have done this. You would have said, all right, I know the slope, I know the y-intercept, so I have this, y equals 1/2 x plus 4, right? Okay, but be careful, that's slope-intercept form. That is not standard form. So what you got to do is you've got to clear those fractions. So the LCD here is 2. So LCD is 2, right? So you can multiply both sides by 2. So let me go ahead and rewrite this over. So you're going to say this. You're going to say times 2 times 2. So I get 2y equals, now let's distribute the 2. 2 times 1/2 x is x. 2 times 4 is 8. And now bringing the variables to one side. So at this point, some of you probably said, well, I'm going to subtract x from both sides. And that's fine. You can do that. All right, so if you subtract x from both sides, I'm going to go ahead and put the x term first. So I get -x plus 2y equal 8. And that's an answer in standard form. Notice this is standard form because the coefficient of x here is -1, coefficient of y here is 2, and your constant's 8. Those are all integers. And I have the variables on one side, the constants on the other. Okay? Now, let me just say this, though. Someone else who did this, I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this right here. So I'm going to rewrite this right here. I'm just saying this. So 2y equals x plus 8. So remember what we did next was we said some of you probably subtracted x from both sides, and you got this, right? Someone else could have said this. Well, I'm going to subtract 2y from both sides. And that's fine, as long as you use the properties correctly. Subtracting 2y from both sides is a logical mathematical statement. So I get 2y minus 2y is 0 equals x minus 2y plus 8. But be careful because this is not standard form. So I got to bring the constant to the other side. So I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. And so I get negative 8 equals x minus 2y. This is 0. And then if negative 8 equals x minus 2y, I can transpose the sides. So negative 2y, x minus negative 2y must equal negative 8. So the point's this. These two equations right here, although they don't look exactly the same, they are the same line. All right. All we did was we multiplied. If you look at this, I multiplied this side by negative 1, this by 8 is really what's happening. So negative 1 times a negative x is a positive x. Negative 1 times 2y is a negative 2y. 8 times negative 8 is negative 1 times 8 is a negative 8. All right, so some of you would have gotten this, some of you would have gotten this. It does not matter. So the point's this. It is important to notice that if some of you said this, that's an 8 here. If some of you said this, or some of you said this, just change the signs. X minus 2y equal negative 8. Those are the same graph. They're the same graph. Okay? You get the same graph. The same equation. They're equivalent because the graphs are the same. All right. Now, so that's getting it in slope-intercept form. So at this point here, those of you that did approach number 1, if you did approach number 1, at this point here, you had to first of all multiply both sides by the LCD, and you get this, and then you got to bring the variables to one side. So either bring the variables to the left or bring the variables to the right and get the constants to the other side. You would have gotten this or this. Approach 2, y, that's at point slope form. Y minus y1 equals the slope times x minus x1. So your slope is 1/2, and a point of that line is negative 2, 3, right? That's right here. But when using point slope form, you're going to let x1 be negative 2 and y1 be 3. So let's go ahead and substitute. So I get y subtract y1, which is 3, equals 1/2 times x subtract x1, which is negative 2. Let's simplify this parentheses. So y subtract 3 equals 1/2 times x plus 2. Now let's distribute. When I distribute, I get y subtract 3 equals 1/2 times x is 1/2 x. 1/2 times 2 is 1, right? Okay. Adding 3 to both sides, I get y equals 1/2 x plus 4. And now this right here looks like this. And now the rest is the same. So this is in slope-intercept form, though, right? You want it in point-slope form. I'm sorry, you want it in standard form. So let's go ahead and multiply both sides by 2. It's the same approach now from here. So the rest of this is the same as this. So you'd have said times 2 times 2. So 2y equals distributing. 2 times 1/2 x is x. And then 2 times 4 is 8. And then subtract x from both sides. I get negative x plus 2y equal a positive 8. Or someone else, if they brought the variables to the right side and the constant to the left, would have gotten this. All you do is change the signs. The opposite of x, negative x is x. The opposite of 2y is negative 2y. And the opposite of 8 is negative 8. Okay, so no matter which approach you took, you're getting the same answer, either this one or this one. Okay? All right, so that's standard form. So it's important to know standard form as well, how to write an equation in standard form. All right, and remember the equation for number 3 was y equals negative 2/3 x plus 12. Okay, so that is the key to this worksheet.